Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Education and Children's Services Scrutiny Subcommittee, and this is the first of the year. So, my name is Jasmine Ali, and I'm the chair. I was the chair last year, and I'm delighted to be back. I think, in my mind, all scrutiny is important, but education and children's services, I just can't imagine what is more important really, because obviously in our remit it's very broad. And last year, some of us were involved in some really important scrutiny reviews, and last year we had a number of reviews, but the key ones were one on adoption, we had one on narrowing the attainment gap or on the achievement gap, and then we had one which was a sort of mini review on child sexual exploitation. So, we had quite a diverse set of reviews really. So we've got a new committee now. Some of us have been on it for a year, and we've got new ones. So without further ado, I'll go around the table. If people were here last year, if you could say what was, the most important thing that you contributed last year, or if it's your new committee, what you expect out of this committee, that would be really great. So I'm Jasmine Ali. I think I've just said the most important things I think from last year, and those were those 3 reviews. So which way shall I go? Shall I go this way?
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Julie Timbrell, and I'm the project manager for the Scrutiny Committee.
And you were here last year. So
I was here last year and the year before.
What were the most important things that came out of last year?
Okay. I think, obviously the reviews, I think, that you've mentioned, so narrowing the achievement gap, and the adoption review, and they're both due to go to the next cabinet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on the safeguarding report, there's something to be considered on that, which is whether to send that to the safeguarding board.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And I just wanted to say thank you for all your hard work last year, and we're just delighted that you're still on the committee as well, so good news all round. Kath.
Hi, I'm Kath Wickham. I'm a member for Rotherhithe Ward, and I'm also deputy mayor now.
Oh,
so we go on to last year. That's a new thing for me. Last year, I was very impressed because the 3 reviews that we did were focusing really on the periphery of people. We weren't looking at the majority of people. So for the attainment one, we were looking at, everybody talks about the 70% who are going to get 5 A to C. But what happens to the 30% that don't? So I think we are there to make sure that everyone is included, that no one gets left behind.
Excellent, very important point, thank you. Sunny, welcome.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sonny Lam, Councillor Sonny Lam, representing South London. I was on the committee last year. Unfortunately, I was on the reserve, so I didn't participate on most of the discussions that went on. However, this year, since I'm a full member this year, I will keep a very open mind to see what comes up, what are the key issues we're going to look at this year, and most especially issue around female genital mutilation, FMT, because I think this is something which I believe I can contribute very positively, because sometimes we look at, it seems we tend to look at the punishment aspect of it, because, obviously very criminal offense. But at the same time, we also need to look at the background, the historical, the culture, why people do it, and why we should perhaps look at adopt a different approach to resolving this issue. And so that's why I'm going to keep it very open minded. And it's on the agenda for the Tuesday.
Thank you. Sandra?
I'm Councillor Sandra Rule. I'm a member for Nunhead Ward, and previously I was a member for Brunswick Park Ward, next door to Camberwell Green, 2006 to 2010. I've been on the children's scrutiny before, and I've also done housing scrutiny. So I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues. My specialist interest is children's education, because as you know, not all children are academics, and I'm worried about the ones who aren't. So the apprenticeship side of things, you know, and things like that.
Excellent, thank you. Should we just see who's in the audience for the people viewing at home? You can't. Okay. All right. Do people want to say that?
I'm Simon, I'm Assistant Director on Adult Social Care.
Nice to meet you.
Joe Stickland, Director of Adult Social Care in Southwark.
I'm Peter Smith, I'm a Commission Manager in the Children's Lab.
Nice to meet you.
Patrick Shelley, Youth Services.
Good to meet you.
Rory Patterson, Director Children's Social Care.
Nice to see you again, Laura.
April Baldwin, Head of Service for Assessment, Intervention and Match in Children's Social Care.
Excellent, thank you. Right, so we'll get on then with the agenda. Have we had any apologies?
Yes, Councillor Lisa Varden, the Vice Chair, thanks for this because we had a childcare emergency. And James Ockerson is running late, so he's coming.
Oh, good. Okay. And what about, have we not heard from any of the nets or any of those? Okay.
No, yeah.
There are pretty bad transport problems, so I should imagine they'll be dipping in.
Yeah.
Okay, so any notification of any items of business which the Chair deems urgent? Disclosure of interest and dispensations?
No, Chair.
No, Chair.
I don't know if I should declare that I have a child with autism. I did discuss in the autism strategy.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know whether I should declare I've got 2 preschoolers, but I'll declare that as well. Thank you. Right then, so we've got quite a good agenda this evening, and we're going to kick off with the autism strategy. And just by way of introduction, we've got quite a few reviews. Oh, welcome. We've just started. Okay. Just to let you know that we are live streaming. So we're on the main agenda now. So on the autism strategy, it's something that we were looking at last year, but it was a little bit stop-start through no fault of the committee. Anyway, over to you, Kath.
Over to me?
Yes.
I think Peter and James need to come over and...
Thank you.
I don't know if you want
Yeah,
to...
should we
Yeah.
start? Is that okay? And then
Yeah, and then we can...
Okay. Thank you, Chair, for having us. I'm Jay Stickland, the Director of Adult Social Care, and I've got my colleague Peter Smith here. So I'm going to do a brief introduction, and then I'm going to hand over to Peter to give you the more meat of the actual report. So just to frame it, over the last 18 months, Southwark Council's Children and Adults Department have been developing an autism strategy in partnership with the CCG. This has involved professionals, organisations who support people with autism and their families and children and young people and adults with autism. We looked at a review of the diagnostic pathway, both for children and adults, and I think it's reasonable to say there were varying findings from both of those pathways. And also, more importantly, we've developed and established a multi-agency steering group to take the review forward. I think my final comment to make is that, as with most social care activities, it's very important to see them in the context of how they fit. That the autism strategy doesn't sit on its own, or the autism pathway. So we've tended to look at it in 3 particular directions, with support from a national organisation. So the strategy overall for its development, but then very much also interlining that with the 0 to 25 pathway and how that goes, and then a particular focus on autism and the pathway for autism, because we felt it's very easy for that particular client group to get lost, because often they're not seen as being as in need as people with complex disabilities. Not saying in any shape or form that autism isn't complex, but they can present in a way that often they fall through the eligibility criteria. So I just felt it was important to put it in that context. I'll hand over to you.
Thank you.
So we're here to give an update on the work that we've been doing since we last came to Scrutiny. So we had a meeting in February just to give an update on what had been happening, and I know there was a presentation last year as well. So there's been a lot of action. I think what we've tried to do in the development of this strategy is to look around at the work that's going on already in the council and make sure that work that's going on in our department is including the development of this strategy. So for instance, the work that we're doing around special educational needs and disabilities, the changes to how children with special education needs are treated in schools and get support from education, health and care as part of the Children's Families Act. There's been loads of work streams and loads of work that's going on around that. So what we've done is make sure that whenever there's been events, whenever there's been work streams set up, that autism is a clear part of that. So for instance, we've got a Preparing for Adulthood work stream, which is looking at the young people going into adulthood. And we've had a number of events where we've made sure that while we're looking at all children with all disabilities, we are very clear looking at what are specific issues for children with autism, so we can gather that information and put it into our draft strategy. So we've done quite a lot of events since we last met in February. We had to complete a self-assessment form to the Department of Health for our work around adult autism. That was our second return. Our return the previous year was quite comparable to other London boroughs. We weren't really outlined in any area. And when we get the comparison data back with this year, we're hoping that's going to be the same. We have taken part in events with London councils looking at the role of colleges for young people with special educational needs and disabilities. There's a lot of concern, I think, that children leaving secondary schools and moving into colleges, that there's the right provision locally, that it's focused on getting a job and it's meeting all of their needs. So we've been part of a London-wide discussion as how to develop that. We do have regular meetings with the Parent Carer Council. They are our key partner in developing most of our SEND reforms. They're on all of our work streams. They lead events for us, and we take part in events with them jointly. We've been looking with what the work we've done around personal budgets, because that obviously has a big impact on the work we do to support all adults and children, and we presented on our developments to 14 other London boroughs as another event that was facilitated by London Council. We presented on SEND reforms to the Parent Carer Council's annual general meeting, and as I said, we've had a number of workshops around the Preparing for Adulthood. One was friends, relationships and community, looking at what issues people face. Another one was on health, looking at the pathway once you transfer from children into adult health services and what the issues are for young people at the moment. Other things that we've done since we met with you, there was a consultation from the Department of Health on a green paper called No Voice Unheard, No Right Ignored, and that was focused on people with learning disabilities, autism and mental health. And we took part in events with local residents as well as officers from local boroughs and London-wide. We've met with a number of other local authorities and support providers in partnership with the National Housing Federation to look at how we can develop better community resources for people whose behaviour challenges services. And as they were saying, people with very complex needs with learning disabilities and autism, that's often a real issue, is how we manage that complex level of behaviour in the community. So we've been looking at how we can develop that better. We always do summer holiday play schemes for our parents and children with special educational needs, and we've developed a provider fair that enables parents to meet all of the organisations that are providing the service, so choose one that they think is best. And we also use that as an opportunity to talk to parents about what they think is missing from services, what they like to see. As Jay said, we've commissioned the National Autistic Society to actually write the strategy, which has been really helpful because it's given us that chance to have that national challenge on what we've identified and what we think are the strengths and weaknesses. As Jay said as well, we've got the Institute for Public Care to help us in looking at the pathways for adults with autism, because we think that's a real area that we must focus on. It's not as strong as with children. So that's the things that we'll be doing leading up to this meeting. I suppose the thing that you're most interested in is that the consultation is going to take
start in mid-July. It is happening, we've got dates set. The IGM will hopefully be signed off the first week in July. We've had briefings with members, they're all on board with it. So we're looking for mid-July to mid-October for the consultation itself, the formal consultation, and then do the analysis of the results to see whether we need to change the draft strategy. And then we were going to Cabinet in December with the results and the final copy of the strategy. And I'm really pleased that we've had the support to get it to Cabinet, because I think we've worked really hard in children and adults, but there's a lot of discussions about actually people who don't come in contact with our department who have autism, particularly adults who come in contact with our housing department, other departments, and actually how can we make sure that all of our departments have got the right level of awareness and support for people with autism.
Okay, thank you. Just before I open it up, thank you very much for that. And you know, it's just really good to have you at the Children's Scrutiny, and it shows the degree to which Southwark are really, you know, putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to actually linking up these services, which is so important, you know, for everyone, but including people with autism. Right, I was going to ask you, Kath, if you wanted to make any comments, because you've been leading. But what was meant to be a mini review last week. We've waited so long, we can bet that it's going to be more than a mini review. Okay, Kath, did you have any comments?
Well, just reading through what you've got here, especially what you've been, people that you've been in contact with. There are no numbers on there at all. You know, how many parents, how many children have you spoken to, how many events. But it's all, you know, I found that as a parent, I get notification of some of these events. They're all in Walworth. They're all in the middle of the day when I used to be working. And so I couldn't go to any of these. So I wonder how many people you have actually contacted, and how, you know, whether they are at the younger end of things or the older end of things, you know, because there's no context of you know, who you've actually spoken to. So that was my main criticism at the moment. Obviously, all those things are good, and I look forward to actually reading the strategy itself.
Do you want to respond to that?
Yes.
I think in the work we've done in the last 18 months, we probably have about 1,300 recorded comments from parents, young people and adults with autism. I would say it's probably been about 700 individuals that we've spoken to. I mean, the events range from, when we did work on the self-assessment framework, we had a big health day. There was roughly about 80 people in total, 25 of them were people who use services or their family members. We've done events where we've had kind of 10 to 30 parents, and when we have meetings for the reforms, we generally have 2 or 3 parents on each work stream, and it's very rarely that a meeting will go ahead without parents. So I think we've seen quite a lot of parents, and I think the other important thing is that we don't just rely on, we're doing an event on this day about this topic to get everybody's views. We work very closely with the SEN team and with all of the social care teams, so that every review that takes place, every conversation that takes place, those views are being collated and coming back to us as well. So it's not just the one opportunity to capture things. For the SEND reforms, we work very closely with the Parent Care Council, and we've been guided by them on when they think is the best time to meet. And yes, the meetings are generally in Cambridge House, because parents like that. There's a creche on site, they can, if they've got children with them. And they generally ask us to meet between 10 and 3, because then they don't need to arrange childcare if they've got children of a school age. So we have been guided by that, but in the...
It doesn't just capture one type of
yeah,
parent.
yeah, no, I'm hearing that, and what we're doing in the formal consultation period for this strategy, we're running workshops during the day for professionals, and in the evening, 6 to 8, for people with autism and their families. So we have listened to that.
I mean, I should send my husband to one, and he was jumped on because he was a man. You know, we don't get many men here.
No.
And he said, I'm not surprised. It took me 2 buses and a train to get here.
Wow. Well, Cambridge House, it's a place that's requested by a lot of parents. We do drop-ins at Sunshine House. and that has evening drop-ins as well as
Yeah,
daytime.
but that's south of the borough still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some what's it house is just up the road from me, so that's still not classed at north in Rotherhithe. So what about the Rotherhithe parents and the Bermondsey parents? That's all right for the Camberwell and Peckham parents. And also, what about weekends, Saturdays and Sundays?
We did for the school holiday fair. It was a weekday this year. Last year we did a Friday and a Saturday. Got about 10 parents on the Saturday, 25 on the weekday. This time we did it on the weekday only. I mean, I can take those comments back to PCC because generally they're the ones telling us where they want those meetings to take place. So it's not necessarily...
capture a certain type of parent who goes to the PCC.
Yeah, we've also run a lot of workshops in schools and nurseries, so and that's linking in with their parent events as well. So we're trying to capture as many as we can. No, all. And we've got the local offer now, so there's an opportunity there to have, there's a button that says have your say, so you can see comments in there. Our information and advice service does meetings before work, after work. If you work locally, they'll meet lunchtime, and we'll also have an email service, so you can raise queries in the evening, we can respond during the day, and you can look at it there. So we're trying to be more flexible. I think we need to think about how we can give people more options to contribute, because I do think just an event or a couple of events, wherever it is in the borough, it's never going to be right for everybody, it's never going to be the right time, you know, so we have to think about how we can use technology, I think, a bit more.
And the other thing I wanted to just flag up is that a lot of parents with children with autism think the schools are doing a good job, and that isn't the problem, you know, because they can get statements and have that worked through within the school, and they get the support that they need. But my daughter's now 17. We had absolutely nowhere to send her to until we went to Bosco, and that's because the tertiary provision within the school is too academic for her, and there's no way she was going to go to the SOCO in Lewisham because it's too far to travel. She'd have to go on a train and a bus on her own, which she can't do. So the moving into adulthood, the further training, the going into apprenticeship, that is the real birth at the moment of provision.
I think we'd agree with you. I think, you know, we've recognised the pathway in terms of childhood is actually more robust than adulthood.
Yeah.
We do recognise that.
I think the
We challenge it.
focus on employment has been a really big one for us, and that starts in education, and I agree with you. I mean, the special schools we have, Harshaw's work experience program is just really inspiring to see, and the way that they focus on the business head and understanding money and the value of money is just really great, and the other schools do really well as well. So it's one of the things that's come up as part of all the programs that we want to look at actually is can we develop better further education opportunities in the borough.
Independent living.
Yeah, and also, you know, supported internships as part of the SEND reforms. We're talking to 2 colleges at the moment. In order to do a supported internship, you have to have a study program. So we're talking to 2 colleges at the moment to develop those programs with them. So, I mean, like Jay says, we recognise that, but we're looking at solutions.
Yeah, I live around the corner from Harshaw, and I was speaking with the lead member about it, and it just looks amazing, really. But that's one of the things, after looking at Harshaw and having a discussion with the lead member, and we'll see later on in the agenda a look at the youth offer. And one of the things that I was thinking about is what happens, you know, in that transition. And oh gosh, throughout my career and before, you know, everyone's thought that actually transitions are the most difficult things to manage, you know, from childhood to adulthood. If you have for anyone, and if you have a special need or autism, anything, you know, then it just seems to be, you know, more likely to fail them. So I just think
we have recognised, in fact, Peter and I were having a meeting today. We in our adult services, which is different to children's services in terms of the inspection, we have peer reviews, and we've actually asked them to focus on transition. We recognise so we've asked for that stage, but that was the area we asked them to look at, where you get peer challenge about the areas of that. So we're going to be working with the children's disability services, the SEN service, and ourselves commissioners to look at how we actually can, and that's about trying to get someone completely objective to look at your service and say, well, we believe this is maybe an area of strength that you need to focus on this area. So we do recognise that, but it is a challenge.
And sorry, I was going to say, as Jay's already said, we're in the process now of scoping up a 0 to 25 disability pathway. So it wouldn't, you're not changing from team to team to team. How can we offer that all up, and how can we integrate that with other services that we work with?
Okay, excellent. So,
You've got a question.
Catherine, you finished with your comments? And thank you very much. Excellent, as usual. Charlie?
Just a very brief one. Sorry for my lateness, by the way. Straightened again.
Yes.
I'm interested about the reviewing the diagnostic pathway. Diagnosis must be, I mean, most parents, I guess, if they're worried about a child, their first port of call would be their GP. And you hear some terrible horror stories about GPs not recognising certain things, all sorts of different conditions or whatever. Do you think that there's a weakness there? That's a stepping stone on your pathway that you need to sort of concrete up a bit?
Yeah, this is a joint strategy with the CCG, and it's been one of the things that we've talked about the most, I think, about how can we get GPs. Some boroughs have an autism register, so GPs are required to, keep a record of everyone that has autism. That doesn't, I mean, for me, that's a bit like asking someone to keep a record but not taking action. So what we've been talking about is what training and support can we give to GPs so they are better able to understand autism. What I'd also say is that I think we do have a good pathway for children through our schools. Our schools, our special education teams work very closely with our team, with the schools and the centres. And we've got one of the best diagnosis rates in London and in the country. So I think that the thing for the GPs is those adults the children that don't get picked up through school and as they reach adulthood and they're not coping, actually GPs need to be more aware there. But we are talking to the CCG about training for GPs, and hopefully that will come through the strategy consultation. That will come through really clearly that people want that.
Thank you.
Of the parents you've seen so far, have you seen anyone of any children with profound multiple learning difficulties, so that as well as higher function, autism? Yeah. So the numbers, are they quite equal? Or
the parents have, yes, they have. I think that we've talked more. I think the parents have been more of children with milder needs. Children with more complex needs, we've tended to talk to young people and adults with complex needs, as well as the services that support them. So we have taken the views of, I think we've seen a representation of both mild and more severe needs, but we tended to have a relationship with those people with severe needs because they're already in our services.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, I've got a few points I want to raise around consultation, transition, and integration. From what I've read in the papers we have, and also from evidence you've given us so far, I noticed one. It seems most of the people you've been talking, it seems only professionals talking to each other, like the GPs, the practitioners of the schools and so on. But in terms of the ordinary people on the street that needs to be aware of the issue of autism and how, because when we talk about integration later on, because you mentioned integration, now there are still a lot of people who don't even understand what is autism, how does it impact the work environment, and if you're going to integrate people with autism in the future, then we need to have that knowledge base, that understanding, so that whether in the work environment or anywhere else, for people, and people don't understand that, how they come to pass that journey. And I can't see that. I think that's missing in this report, and I think we need to do more work on that. Whether, because when you look at consultation, then obviously all these people, non-practitioners, non-professionals need to be consulted so that we can get evidence from them and see how they can be part of that journey. And that will formulate part of the strategy. But you're talking about the strategy, and without getting all this, so you can't formulate, a workable strategy. And I think we need to look at this.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think autism is, obviously when you have someone with profound disability who has autism as well, it's like any, if people, public can see this, they can grasp it. I think autism, one of the challenges, I'm sure, probably people here can talk much more eloquently than I can, because it can often be an invisible disability, and can often present as not a disability, but a particular behaviour that could be seen as offensive to some people. Some people would find it being rude or whatever. I think it is a real challenge. Now, I think we are trying to model that, so I think often you try and engender a better behaviour, and that's why when Peter talks about the broader council, so that if someone with autism goes into a housing office or something, we're trying to get them to model good behaviour, because that's often a very good way of actually getting broader members of the public to recognise that actually you can deal with things better. But I think autism does suffer. I think people with autism suffer, and their families, no doubt, suffer from it being, if you have some parts of that spectrum, and I call it invisible, not because, but because it can't be something grasped. So I think it's a reasonable behaviour, and we have to always try and educate the public and actually get them to see it. But modelling is a really good way of doing it, by showing that we acknowledge it, and that we can our staff will actually hopefully be sensitive to these sorts of issues.
But what are the practical steps we're going to take to? It's very easy to say we're going to include the public, I mean the non-professionals. But what exactly? Because I haven't seen that in this.
I suppose your question is about kind of having an accessible borough, isn't it? We can focus on something like dementia, and we can focus on something like wheelchair accessible, but actually, how do we make the whole borough more accessible?
Yeah.
I was at a meeting this morning with a number of other London councils to look at developing what we're calling an equal access card. Wandsworth have one, and it's called a wand card. They've completely used the first part of their name, and they were just talking about it, and it's been developed in partnership with parents of people with disabilities, and it's linked to their disability register. But what was really nice about it was that they've worked with local businesses to get discounts, but also about awareness. And so some businesses and organisations have said, actually, we're not going to give you a concession, but they put a sticker in the window to say they're wand friendly, and that means that staff have had training. And that means that they might offer a quiet area, so if a child's not coping with sights and sounds, there's an opportunity for them. And it was really interesting. One of the parents there was saying, she went into one of the stores and said, my child always needs shoes. Yeah, it's just like any other child, it needs shoes, but my child's autistic and can't cope with all of this noise. So either I get something online, or I rush in, get the first pair that looks right, and rush out. But actually, through this discussion with businesses, they're able to make a quiet area. She gets to shop like a normal parent, and she feels that, So we're really keen to look at actually whether we can develop something similar, either London-wide or in Southwark. And we agreed today that we're going to look at developing a paper that we can take to these members and just see if we can get that support here in Southwark.
Well, if you're saying about modelling, obviously we should start with our staff who are in the offices, who deal with the public, if we're going to start that.
Yeah, and certainly one of the recommendations that we've made in the draft strategy is that we do training for all frontline staff in awareness and
it's bad enough being just allegedly normal to go into some of our offices as a secret shopper. What says if you've got a dyslexic child or an autistic child?
Yeah.
So that would be interesting to see.
Okay. Any further for our representative? Okay, these are all great points, and I do hope that they will add value, but we are talking about the making of the strategy, not a strategy, so that's always difficult.
Yeah.
Although I do think some of these comments will be...
they will be fed in, definitely, yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Are you hopeful that the timetable won't slip?
It was... Jay's looking at me silly, it's not going to sit now.
yeah, there was a bit of back and forth on
there was. We had issues with who was leading to the council and CCG, but we've resolved that now. We're leading, and we've got a handle on the timetable now.
And that's good to see. Health and social care joined up. Thank you. So the key points that we've got then, all the stuff that we've got, we hope to see, that will feed into the review. Certainly, on the, to get as wide as people involved as possible, really. And the other point that I had was about the transitions, really. We are very interested in that. We've got to bottom out or finalise our work programme towards the end of this meeting. But anything that we can do with Scrutiny to help you with that, you know, we'd be up for that. And also, Julie and myself and Kath sit on the health committee. No. Okay. Well, Julie and I sit on the health committee, so you know we can help through that as well. So really, where we're up to now is good luck with the review. You know, it's such an important area of work, and it looks like you've got a handle on it. Not least now you've been scrutinised. You'll come back again, I hope. And so it will be good to see you when we've got actually something to scrutinise. So, you know.
We're happy to come here as part of the formal consultation, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think that will be helpful. And, you know, as I said to Peter and Jay, it's particularly good to have you here now, because I think after, as a newly elected councillor last year, the thing that didn't really hit me until the end of the year is actually it's not that obvious to join all of these things up. So, you know, it's great to have you here, and it was good to see you here again. After the test, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you.